What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Golf 360 podcast. I'm the host, Pete Popovich. So you may be asking yourself, what is Golf 360? And Golf 360 is a show that was designed to introduce you to people associated with the game of golf to help you improve not only at your game, but also your life. Almost all of our guests are from within the industry in some way, shape, or form, but some of the guests we have are from outside the industry, and it mainly revolves around the business world with a few others scattered in here and there. Now, all of the guests that we have a few things in common. One, they all were highly successful and accomplished in their field. Two, each has something to pass along that will help you in your game and your life. And three, they were all more than willing to give back by passing along the things that they use to help them in their career, and even some of the mistakes that they made so that others don't make them in their journey. So I hope you find listening to them as enjoyable as I did interviewing them, and that each and every one of you benefits from the information that they so willingly and graciously pass along. Hey everybody, I want to give a big shout out to a new sponsor of the Golf 360 podcast, and that's Affinity Wealth Management Group. We all work exceptionally hard for our money, and none of us can afford to let that fall into the dark abyss of the big box financial service firms and their jack of all trades and master of none mantra, which basically means you become a number within a cookie cutter model that's also often accompanied by massive fees. Your future deserves more than average returns and little attention. At Affinity Wealth Management, they ensure that your financial goals receive highly individualized, tailored attention from experts, not just advisors, who are in the industry to be great and not average. As a client of Affinity Wealth, you receive a customized solution to your customized life, keeping in mind your family's financial situation, values, and risk tolerance. Call Affinity Wealth today for a no-cost consultation with one of their experts at 724-754-8200. Again, that's 724-754-8200. Or you can also check them out on the web at www.affinitywealthmg.com. That's AFFINITYWEALTHMG.com. This podcast is brought to you in part by Just Thrive Probiotic. You may be surprised to learn that your digestive system is the key to creating and maintaining the quality of your physical, mental, and emotional health, and it's one of the body's most essential systems. That's why the majority of nutritionists today highly recommend probiotics as an indispensable nutritional supplement. As a discriminating consumer, you've probably been searching for a probiotic that is proven, potent, and effective, and you found it. Just Thrive is your best choice for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Just Thrive Probiotic captures the power of hundreds of thousands of years of nature's design with a specialized bacillus strain formulation that guarantees survivability through the stomach and upper digestive system. Supports optimum gut health, digestive health, immune health, and delivers antioxidants. Great for adults, kids, and the whole family. Use promo code GOLF360 at www.thriveprobiotic.com for 10% off your order. Hey everybody, as usual, we got another phenomenal show for you today. And as I mentioned in the intro, Golf 360 got its name because we look to bring in people that are in the game, that are outside the game, but somehow connected to it, all to help you, the listener, in your game and your life. And today's guest encompasses both of those things because he spent a number of years in the golf business, but he has spent a lifetime in the world of martial arts. His name is Marinus Hook, and he is a member of the World Martial Arts Hall of Fame, which is very impressive to say the least unto its own. He has been in and around the martial arts world for almost 5 decades, and he has trained with, learned from, and accomplished some things with some of the best martial artists in the world, and we even talk about some of that in today's episode. He also spent a number of years in the golf industry where golf had become a passion of his, and like most, he chose or wanted to pursue that passion, and doing so, getting into the golf business, and that's where I met him. This was about 10 to 12 years ago. He pursued that up to a certain level and then decided that the golf world wasn't for him. Had never given up his martial arts school that he has now had for almost 30 years. That's called Family Tree Karate. and that is in the eastern Pennsylvania Poconos Mountains. If you get a chance to stop by and see him, be sure to do so. And then we just talk about how the similarities are between the golfing world, the martial arts world, and just life in general. So this is a very, very interesting show. I love doing it because he's a dear friend of mine. And I think everybody's going to take a lot from this and find out some things that might be able to help them, be it in their golf game and or in their life. So, as always, please give a big Golf 360 welcome to my dear friend, former golf professional, and World Martial Art Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Marinus Hook. All right, Mr. Hook, Shihan, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Honored to be here, Pete.
Talked about it for a long time, and for everybody that knows Mr. Hook here, dear friend of mine, was gracious enough to give me a couple hours of his time a couple of years ago when I was starting this. We did a mock interview over the phone, and I got to learn some how this equipment works and all that good stuff. But we figured, yeah, let's have an official show with you on here.
Sit down.
Our good buddy, Mr. Mickey Colella, was on. You can't let him beat you.
No, I cannot.
But it turns out it's turning into when there's in-house guests like you and Mick. Krista Dutton came over. We do the barbecue and the whole spread. So hopefully, if this thing ever grows one day, that'll be the go-to for anyone coming in. I'll probably weigh 300 pounds if that happens.
And the barbecue is absolutely delicious,
good,
my friend. It was really good.
I give Pit Boss a big shout-out. Nothing against Traeger. I was going to get one of those, and I'm not trying to copy Joe Rogan by any means, but it is. I didn't know squat about cooking, grilling in particular.
Hands down, some of the best ribs I've had.
Hey, maybe I'm onto something there. You've done a lot of different things.
I have.
It's a very, very successful martial arts career. Got into the golf business, and that's when we met.
Mm-hmm.
And today I'd like to talk a little bit about, because somebody out there who might have just seen the title or seen the picture and so on, and they might not know, not knocking anybody, but they say, okay, why martial arts and golf, and what's the connection there? Many people, I think, who play golf and or have done martial arts can see a connection, but we'll get into all those things as we go through this. But if you would just speak a little bit to your martial art career. I know you've done it over 4 decades, and tell your story a little bit.
And then some, yeah. In a quick nutshell, I grew up without parents, and they popped me into a martial arts school in 1969 is when I first entered a dojo. At that time, it wasn't all that popular in the United States, and you had to be at least 12 years old. But here I am, this 4-year-old boy, cast into this world, and little did I know the benefit that it would have in my life, and the help that it would give me throughout to help me with this toughest fight called life. So I started in 1969, and here it is, 2020, almost 21. I'm still kicking and punching.
Literally. What was there a particular style that you got into in the beginning? Or
the most popular style at that time was Taekwondo. But after several years in that and achieving my black belt around 9 years old, I decided to go into judo. Mm-hmm. Once gone through judo, I did a little stint in boxing. I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey, so there was Lou Costello's boxing back then. But then I went into Aikido and Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, and then later on down the road, I got hooked up with a man by the name of Hoist Gracie, and I started jiu-jitsu training with him, and I've been with him for about 17 years. Mm-hmm. So he was a wonderful man. I'm located in Pennsylvania now, but he married a girl from that area that I was in, so that's how we met. So my style is a mixture. I've kind of run my martial arts school like I've run my life. Without the parental unit, you tend to take the best things that you see in life, in relationships and in parenting and everything else. Same thing with martial arts. I tend to take the positive things I see in martial arts and incorporate it to what I've developed myself, a family tree, MMA. And that's the name of my little dojo. And I chose that family tree for a reason, because martial arts and my students have become my family. And to me, all martial arts is part of a family. You know, let's face it, how many punches and kicks can you show different ways? I mean, mm-hmm. It's all part of the same tree. So,
Yeah, it almost it to the general population the two names family and MMA don't seem to blend really well. But
They don't.
You as you said that's the culture that you've created over all these years. How when someone brings their kids to you or adults want to take the class, do you have to explain that to them, or is that understood because you've been in the area that you're in for quite some time and have the resume and the reputation and so on?
I don't have to explain it as much. I get it once in a while from other martial artists. Why did you name it Family Tree? I mean, when every other dojo has got more of a masculine name: lions, tigers, bears, lions, dragons. Family. I don't need to hide behind a name, basically. I'm teaching a very good, well-rounded martial arts system, and I don't need to hide behind a name. The proof is in the pudding, if you will, and how the care and the instruction of my students is paramount in my life. I don't teach it just for the kick and punch. I teach it as a preparation for this greatest fight that we call life. Mm-hmm. That is the whole purpose of my being.
The training that you did the Taekwondo first.
Yes.
And then you did the Judo. And did you continue as you... Well, let me back up. How many black belts or high-level belts do you have?
I have 5 black belts.
Okay. In total belts, how many do you... different disciplines, how many do you...
6 different disciplines, 5 black belts. I'll never really get a black belt with Hoist jiu-jitsu. Number 1, I'm getting a little bit older. Number 2, I don't think he wants to give me one quite yet.
He wants to grind it out a little more.
Wants me to grind it out a little bit longer, I think. But no, I don't. It's all good. I love it all. I love everything about self-defense, martial arts, but more of how it can help an individual through life rather than, the obvious. We're not training people to all go into the UFC. Mm-hmm. I'm training these people trying to lead these kids and these adults to not only protect themselves, but to feel good about themselves, to give them some tools to withstand some of the growing pressures that are happening today in today's world.
What are some of the things you do? Because one of the connections between what you do and what I do and what a lot of coaches do is you teach people.
Yes.
Right? And the fundamentals and principles of teaching somebody, everybody thinks it's, well, you got to know the X's and O's. Okay, but that's, as you learn, is pretty simple. But to coach and develop somebody from, as you said, kids start with you at 5.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then they do it for a lifetime. Golf, they usually start about the same age, and they do it for a lifetime as well. And
yes.
Family can do it, and all those wonderful things. What are some of the ways you go about your coaching and your philosophy, and maybe a couple examples?
Well, my coaching and philosophy, there's a little bit of selfishness to it, because I believe if you're a really good teacher and a good coach, you will learn yourself as you're doing it. Mm-hmm. By reaching people that normally can't be reached, or you have to find a way to break through and re-explain something to somebody, and so they get it. And by you doing that, you develop yourself. But my coaching style has always been for the betterment, for them to not only understand what I'm saying, but to comprehend it and to put it into action. Teaching somebody and them not being able to put it into action in their life is really not a good teacher. You can say a bunch of great words, you can tell them to read a bunch of great books, but if they're not comprehending it and if they're not setting it into their life, it's kind of a waste of time. So I really want them to sink in, bite into what I'm teaching them, and take it with them.
Yeah, because if they're just memorizing, that doesn't do a whole lot of good. I think Gary Vaynerchuk, I was watching him not long ago. Do you know Gary V?
Yeah.
And they asked him about the educational system in this country, how we've been slowly digressing.
Yes.
And he said it's the way that our nation has been doing is completely wrong. It's no longer memorization is not needed. You got your phone. If a kid wants to know what 8 + 8 is, he can ask Siri. If he wants to know what the capital of France is, he can ask Siri. So it's need is the shift towards more problem solving, which is kind of, I've shifted my teaching to a large extent to making students, especially if they want to get to the next level, of whatever level that is, if they want to go from junior golf to college golf, or college golf to the professional level, it's like, okay, the variables and the problems just become bigger. You have more of them. You go to pro golf, you've got cameras, you've got people here, there, and even if you're a no name, right? Who's going to do your scheduling? How are you going to get there?
Right.
You got to go through the travel, whether you're driving or flying. Are you going to get a rental car? Where's your hotel? I mean, it's a lot easier now. I mean, when I was playing it, we had the big atlas in the back seat, and you kind of highlighted your way through the states you were going through. But they don't realize that. No matter how much you try to tell them coming up, it's like, well, I need to work on my swing. No, you need to. Here's what I'm going to do. Well, I don't. I'm not good at that. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Right. Do you find that in martial arts?
Absolutely. Everybody, the memorization, like you said, memorization is good, but if it's not sinking in, then it's not as good as you think. I hear a lot of people coin the term muscle memory. I'm not a big proponent of muscle memory. I don't believe in muscle memory.
Me neither.
If somebody lops a leg off, your mind says, hey, my leg is still there. Well, it's not. I feel my right toes twitching. Well, it's not. It's your brain. The brain is the muscle. Mm-hmm. It's the neuron patterns and how it fires. And it's the same thing with martial arts. That's why there's so much repetition in martial arts and golf too. And to get better, you got to practice repetition over and over again. You got to keep working on your short game. You got to keep working on the mid game and the long game. And you got to work on your timing. It's the same thing with martial arts. It has to sink in. I have to make it part of their life. To me, I teach that it's not a sport or activity, and this is what I tell my students, and they kind of shake their head a little bit at me a little bit. I said, this is a way of life. And if I can get them to understand that I'm trying to improve those things in their life so they can be better human beings in any situation, whether they're going through good times or bad times or stressful times, that some of these teachings will stick with them and it's ingrained in them so they can handle it better.
What would be an example? Do you have one without naming names?
Sure.
Obviously you don't have to name
names. Perseverance. Golf and martial arts. It's one of the questions you asked me, I think, before, is how I make the correlation, or to your audience, of how I correlate golf and martial arts. Martial arts is about speed, power, timing, and balance. A lot can be said about that for golf too. Grip, stance, posture, alignment, and tempo. Mm-hmm. Just words switched around. Both of them require perseverance. This life requires perseverance, especially today's world. And perseverance is something that you just can't go to the store and buy, or you can just memorize. Those are built into you as you go through the tough times. A lot of people don't want to face the tough times. We call them peaks and valleys. Well, there are very few peaks in life. We're mostly in the valley. And I have found that there is beauty in the valley if you stick your head up and look for it. Look for the things that you can learn from being in the valley, why you are going through whatever you're going through, and learn from them, and therefore persevere and push through. So perseverance is the biggest thing that I think I want to bring on to people, because they're going to need it. They're going to need it in this life, as we need it as adults.
Do you find that in the school, if you have the young kids, let's say they've advanced to yellow belt or mm-hmm. orange belt or whatever color they're at, and if they have or access to or see some of the older kids that they're looking up to, that they're struggling just as well, and it's like, oh, hey, I'm not the only one, because we tend to be very myopic in our view. Mm-hmm. I know that I had that where I'll have, back when I had more college level players, if they would come out, one would be after the other, or we all go play a few holes after. Mm-hmm. I'd give one a lesson, the other one to stay around and work on their short game, and then, hey, you want to go play 9? Let's go implement what we worked on and see
right.
how well it's adapted. And then if one would see the other one struggling as well, it's like, oh, I'm not the only one, mm-hmm. right? Then you don't think that it's the world against me. But then you also see somebody else get through it, mm-hmm. that's either a contemporary or somebody you look up to, and it's like, okay, they work through that. Okay, I'm going to do that because I'm following their lead.
Exactly.
Is that built into martial arts in general and or your system?
It is. Without going into my upbringing or life too much, it is a kind of a known fact to a lot of people. And many people have said you really should tell people your life. And I don't really want to, unless it has some sort of benefit to that person. And it's not I'm not looking for pity. I'm not looking for a self-serving way of me explaining, hey, look, I got through it. You can too. I need to do something more than that. I need to show them that not only will you get through it, you will get through it and help others. And that's what I'm trying to get across. Rather than giving them just an example, I try to lead by example and become the best instructor I can for them. But ultimately, I'm trying to get them to persevere, learn from them, move on, and persevere through the next stage as well. So it's a lifelong journey.
You know, I never realized that until I was probably mid-20s, to where I would get home from work in the winter this time of year. You know, we're here in Hilton Head,
yeah.
And every night at I think
don't rub it in.
Yeah, I think it was.
I got snow coming next week.
I'll call you from the driving range, send you a picture or video.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Can you analyze my swing for me? Don't mind the sun getting in the way. And yeah, that's sweat marks on my shirt because it's a little warm. But I used to get home and I started watching the Biography Channel, and they had Sam Walton on there and his whole deal, and Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all these very successful people. And I'm sitting there watching this, and all of them, Sam Walton in particular, I think he went bankrupt or whatever. He started his store 5 different times and they all failed. And then of course he becomes the legendary Walmart. But it dawned on me that there's nobody that does it, that goes from beginner to world class in anything without screwing up.
No,
it's not. And for some reason that never registered to me. I always saw the people on the pedestal and said, well, they must have done it perfect, and that's how they got there.
Yeah.
But as you said earlier, life, sport, whether it be a martial art or golf, is a microcosm of life and mimics it, and it's not going to happen in a perfect way. I don't think anything is linear.
No.
Unless it's linear up and down, sideways, and all around. Right?
Right, exactly. And it changes with your experience. As you get older, your situations, your physical, mental, social, and spiritual situations may change in this life, where you have a complete different outlook on everything else. You might be dealing with something you had no idea you were going to have to deal with. Mm-hmm. So all of these setbacks in life, if you will, or learning opportunities happen for a reason. And one of the things that I love to tell people is, especially when somebody's like really down, going through something really hard, I try to be as encouraging as I can, but I always tell them, look, there's already a list of things I think you've probably have gone through. I know I have as well. And when we're in them, we really don't want to be in them, but somehow we got through them, didn't we? This is no different. What you're going through right now is no different. You will get through this too. And the trick of it is learn from it. Learn from it for the next one so you can handle the next one better. So absolutely, I agree.
You know, Dr. Brett McCabe was on the show. He's a sports psychologist, works with, I think he's got he's got a dozen or more pro PGA Tour European level player. I mean, world class, top 5 in the world type stuff. And I follow him on Instagram. I love his stuff out, and he's always putting, hey, look, golf is hard. You're not going to play great every day, and life is very hard too. It's not going to be, a bed of roses every day. That saying, I got up on the wrong side of the bed, is for a reason, and it's hard and it beats you down. And to your point, is the perseverance aspect of it is how well can you get up? I mean, how many times have you heard that? Tony Robbins says it, Doc McCabe says, you talk to anybody in that industry that's in the mental side of things, and they're always like, yeah, you're going to get beat up. That's the way it is. And it's who wants to continue forward and get through it.
Yep. And to your point before about memorizing things, all those people we are all trying to help people, but you can't just memorize these words. You have to live them. You have to go through them. I mean, so when, Tony Robbins or anybody of, much greater stature than I am in psychology of trying to improve people's lives, is that you're still going to have to go through them. You can't just read these books and see and listen to these messages. You have to enable them and enact on the things that they're telling you in your life. If you don't, they're just words. So
I think
you will be tested.
The hardest thing to get golfers to understand, and once they get to a very elite level, they do understand it, and then that dynamic of teaching someone at that level is very different. You're tweaking and you're maintaining, and it's ebbs and flows. Where when you're working with even high level junior golfers or college golfers, and then even down to the 18, 20 handicaps, it's getting them to understand that, yes, you continue work at something.
Yes.
Because, and I always use the climbing a mountain analogy. If you're advancing and you're applying yourself to something, set the goal, set your plan, continue with it, and each time you look down, the perspective and the view has changed.
Yes.
So it gives you some form of accomplishment and incentive to keep going forward. If you're stagnant and doing the same thing, the view is constantly the same, and it gets boring. You get down, depressed.
Yes.
And you don't want to do squat. So I use that quite a bit with beginners all the way up to, better junior players, and because they're usually teenagers. They haven't experienced that in life yet.
Yeah.
So using golf for a metaphor, because at some point in their life, they're usually they get in their late teens, 20s, they're going to face some bigger challenges. It's like, you remember when we had this discussion when you were 15? Remember you got through that? We set up a plan. You worked at it for 6 months, and then you won that tournament, or you went from Division II prospect to a Division I prospect. Outside of getting another rank or another belt in martial arts, because in golf they can almost track, or they can see their development. Mm-hmm. Okay, I hit 10 greens around the first 4 months of the year, and now I'm hitting 12 greens around, so that they can it's quantifiable. And how do you do it in martial arts where it's not as quantifiable?
Martial arts, again, is a way of life. So for me, it's longevity. My martial art studio we just celebrate our 27th year. I have been in it since, like I said, it's 1969. So it's been quite a while. My belt that I wear is 33 years old. I think I quantify it by longevity. How this is, I've taken on the what I'm trying to practice and preach into my life. I'm trying to continue to help people. I'm trying to do this forever. There is no retirement for me. I'll continue to do this until I can't. Then hopefully I've trained people well enough to keep that teaching going on. Mm-hmm. That is the only way. It's the quality of my instruction to the students who are coming to me, the smiles, the parents, what they're saying to me. I think they hold me accountable the most is the students and the parents, what they look like, how they're doing it, how they're comprehending it, and their enjoyment level. So
how has teaching martial arts over the decades that you have, how has it changed? Because obviously the world has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, it's changed dramatically. Actually, I can say it's probably changed in the golf world pretty dramatically too. From an era where there wasn't nutritionists and physical trainers and big diets and the technology that we have today in golf tools to where it is now as martial arts. It started in a very disciplined way where there was only a few of them around. There wasn't one on every corner like there is today. Mm-hmm. I think it's changed quite a bit in the recent years, and not for the good. It's no longer become about, for a lot of the parents, the discipline or the behaviors that they're going to get by a good rounded martial art program. It became more or less whether Johnny and Mary were happy. Parents don't push their kids as much, so they come to people like me and other martial artists to help with that discipline with their kids. Parents need to parent again. They need to hold their kids accountable and teach them, and not let the kids tell them what to do. It has changed quite a bit. You can tell I'm a little opinionated on that right now.
Well, yeah, well, you deal with a lot of kids. You,
I
you
deal
see
with
it from a completely different perspective, way more so than I do. And I've dealt with a number of kids and parents, and the enabling
Yes.
for the last, I would say probably in the last 15 years.
Yes.
It was when it was noticeable that parents are allowing kids, or they're more passive in their rearing.
Yes.
And the kids are taking them. I mean, kids are not stupid.
It dawned on me. One of the parents made a comment to me, and it stuck with me for a day or two. And then I had to approach them on that. They said, well, I don't want to parent my child like my parents parented me. I said, you know something? After I thought about this for a while, I have heard that in every generation, every year. I hear it all the time. From the time I was a young boy till I am not such a young boy anymore. It's still out there. I mean, if we keep saying that year after year and decade after decade, where are we going? I mean, we're always focusing on all of what they didn't do right, but they had to do something right. So let's focus on that instead and build on the right and not the wrong. So if one generation was too much discipline and the next generation was not enough discipline and this generation doesn't want to be any discipline, I don't think that is the right way to do. There's got to be a compromise between these three things somehow. Disciplining your children is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's discipline with love, and you do it to disciple your child, to teach your child what's right, what's wrong, what's good, and they're not going to get that from throwing an iPad in their hand.
How do you get? Let's say you have a kid that you're trying to get something through to them, the lesson, so to speak,
Sure,
of what they need to learn, and they're just fighting you the entire way. Not literally, but they're not grasping to
They're not
it.
grasping it.
And you know that sometimes keeps me awake. And I like, okay, how can I reword this or create a different perspective so that they understand it? And sometimes you just can't. You got to let them work it out themselves. But in golf, that's easier for them to see that. It might be harder to get them to buy in, where they have to fail some more, where they might maybe play a dozen tournaments and they keep making the same mistake, and you're subtly pointing it out because you know
Right.
they're trying, but they're not getting it. And then, having those hard conversations with them are hard for them to hear, and they probably don't like you for a while. I've had a number of those. But then when they do finally get it, and the elation, makes it worth it. But how do you do that in your school or in your career?
I think, again,
Because you don't want to leave, not leave. You don't want them to quit.
No.
And then they're out of school. Now they're not going to do anything.
no, but it's a teaching opportunity to practice the perseverance that we were talking about before. I'll give you, for instance, martial arts. Everyone loves it the first couple belts. I mean, they're punching, they're kicking, they're doing pad work, they're playing a couple of games, they're having fun. But then something happens. It starts to get a little harder, and we expect a little bit more. We expect them to progress physically, mentally, spiritually, and socially on the mat. And it gets harder. That's when kids start to get tested, whether they're going to rise up and reach for further or not. And it's a tricky balance for me on how I deal with certain students. Every student is different, so I have to do it from a different approach for almost every student. But one thing that's in common in all of them is that positive affirmation usually gives me an in to teach a little bit more and further in them. So I can find something positive that they're doing. I'll build on that. So one person may be a really good, powerful kicker. Another person may have speed. One person's timing may be impeccable. I can bring those three together and I can call them my champions, my power champion, my speed champion, my timing champion. I said, now here's the trick. I want you to learn a little timing and speed. I want you to learn a little power and timing, and build it up that way. Make it fun for them. That's the best.
So you're giving them that acknowledgement to say,
Yes.
hey, look, you have it reached here, but now let's see if you can go to here.
Exactly.
And I found out, especially,
but I highlight what they are good in first, though.
With the younger kids, I've always found out that and to me, it's not very hard to get them motivated, because kids, if you tell them they can't do something, oh yeah, watch this.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, can you hit 10 balls in the air? You know, a lot of beginner kids, they'll sit there and hit balls and balls. And what I'll do is I'll start counting down when they get to 7, 8, and then you can see the tension. So they're learning how to cope with adversity and performing when they need it. Like, and it eventually gets to, I'm going to do this. You know, that Tiger Woods was so phenomenal at that, in that he said, here's what I'm going to do today.
Yes.
And it wasn't just, okay, I'm going to ride my talent and then see how it goes. It's like, no, here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, his dad did a phenomenal job at building that from the time he was a kid.
Yes.
But again, martial arts to me has always been, has always done those things. It's not like martial arts has changed in how many thousands of years it has been around, since Bodhidharma was supposedly the first one, right? That brought it to the Asia.
No, it hasn't changed that much. We've taken some things a little differently with martial arts. You know, jiu-jitsu, when jiu-jitsu was entered here and Hoist came in and challenged the world and beat them, you know, jiu-jitsu became the big thing here in this country, and it was what everybody needed to learn. But with the recent political unrest and social upheaval that's going on right now, I'm kind of aware of, when I teach, I always expected that kids would never have to use this, but if they had to use it, they had it. I am not so sure that people are not going to have to use some of this stuff someday anymore. It's gotten to that point. And jiu-jitsu is still great for the ring. It's still great for the UFC. It's not so great on the street when there's 5 people messing with your family. So awareness and detail and keeping yourself out of certain situations is really what I'm trying to accomplish through my teaching as well. And in fact, those are my 2 big buzzwords right now. Attention to detail and awareness of what's going on around you. So, and then also for them, as far as their techniques go, pay attention more to detail in those techniques as well. Since I can't do certain things right now in a COVID world in a martial arts school.
You know, we've talked a number of times about the history of martial arts, and as we talk about now, that it is for life, and it has the benefit. And as I was learning about it many years ago, you know, there was the health benefit that people did the physical part for, but the mental side of it, that the discipline, the mental strength, and the fortitude and the perseverance, as you referred to, seems to be the foundation.
The focus. Yeah. And same with golf. Focus is a huge part of golf. And it'll be challenged every time. Same thing with martial arts. It's about the focus of the detail of what you're doing, or what you're trying to do with it. If trying to break a wood, I always ask the students, well, what are you looking at? And I'll draw like a bullseye. And they're saying, well, I want to hit the target. I said, well, what part of the target? Well, I want to hit the bullseye. What this little circle down here? And I tell them, no, you got to look a little finer than that. I said, look into that circle. Find the center of that circle. Find one little speck. I left one speck open. Stare at that. And then that's honing their focus in a little deeper. With golf, it's the same thing. You really have to focus on every shot, your pre-shot routine, what kind of shot you want to hit, lining it up properly, and then pulling the trigger. You got to focus through all those steps. So, old martial arts, I think, really put a lot of emphasis on that part of the training, is the focus. Today, it is so difficult to get that across to students because they have so many things that take their focus away. I mean, these kids today have more images in their brain than we've had in our entire lives.
Yeah, they're bombarded with information.
And I'm a firm believer, it's between the eyes and the brain, it's like a cloud, and all that information just sits there, and they really can't focus on anything for too long. It's a different world.
Yes, the dynamic is changing. It's changing at a much accelerated pace.
Yes, it is.
You know, 20 years ago, those things are almost obsolete now.
Yes.
And if anybody's in the tech world, if you have a website, if you have a podcast, social media account, whatever it is, you know, how many of the social media accounts that came before Facebook and I don't even remember what they were.
Yeah.
And that was only, 8-10 years ago, and they're gone.
They're gone.
Things are changing at a much accelerated pace. And, you know, in talking to Doc Brett McCabe, because we talked a lot about how to coach the 21st century athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And he's about my age. He's late 40s, and he was a pitcher coming up. He was a very good pitcher when he was a kid, and he played at LSU. They won national championship. And he says, look, when I played, and he goes, I'm sure you were the same. You knew all the good players in your town, in your county, and then, you know, in your state as you advanced, but you didn't know who was good in maybe a different part of the country on the West Coast, or you didn't know who was good in Europe. He said, these kids today, they know exactly who's doing what because they got it in the palm of their hand. They just pulled up on their phone who's winning AJG event in Texas this week. You know, and if they're in, you know, your area in Eastern Pennsylvania, they know exactly who it is. Yeah. And they're formulating and they're processing, they're doing all these things that you and I never had to do. No. It was just, okay, I need to beat John Smith, who lives the next town over, because we're going at it, you know, head to head next week in the city championship or the whatever, you know, or the martial art tournament. So it's that bombardment of information. It's how do you, as we talk about different ways of teaching, and we're talking about the fundamentals of things that have worked over in golf in decades and in martial arts for centuries. That dynamic of, well, how do you deal with a kid of a problem that has never been happened throughout history of mankind?
I struggle with that. I'll be honest. I am trying to adapt to it a little bit better. I'm trying to take a look at it from a different point of view, and I'm actually trying to turn the technology around on them. For instance, if they're going to go through, say, a kata in my system, and they think they have it really down really well, I said, okay, great. Can I get mom out here with her phone? Mom, put that on video. Let's do it again. And I'm going to put you on video this way you can look at it. And all of a sudden they get a little scared. So they do it, and I know the mistakes that they're making, and I can correct them on those mistakes, but it's much better if they see them. So I've been using technology in that way. But martial arts, I'll be honest, we're a little bit behind the eight ball on that. I mean, we're pretty much a cross between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do. We're hands-on.
You know, it's really interesting, and I'm not up on all the tech for teaching. You know me, I don't use hardly any tech outside of my cell phone now, and that has only been in the last, I don't know, 5 years or how long. I don't know how long we've known each other. Pushing a decade.
Yeah, at least.
Okay, so let's say I've been using my iPad or iPhone for a decade, but the big one is Coach Now. Yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. It's been around for a while. And I know Martin Chuck, who was on the show, he uses it quite a bit, and Martin he sells out his schools. I mean, Martin's a great teacher, first and foremost. Don't let me say that technology is making him sell out. And his Tour Striker line of products obviously is very well. But he uses Coach Now, and I'm almost certain that he records each lesson. It goes into that person's locker. He can upload, download, whatever you want to call it, things that, hey, you know, we were working on this thing in your swing. Here's another video a short video I did for you, or here's someone else of a video that I did, and you can drop it in there, and they get an automatic email. Or you can drop in I don't know in martial arts, but you would drop in maybe a practice plan. Hey, I want you to work on short game. Here's the drills we're going to do, and it's basically they can pull it up on their phone and scroll through it. So it's really revolutionizing in a certain way. It used to be called, I think, Edify, EDUFI, and the guy that developed it stayed on at Coach Now. But it's a very quick reference for especially these kids today. Everything's on their phone. So for golf, if I give somebody a lesson and they're out on the range, like, well, shit, did he tell me was my right hand supposed to be here or here? Was my takeaway supposed to be this spot or this spot? They can go into their account, pull it up, and click on the lesson, and it's got it right there. Yeah. So as it would relate to martial arts, if a kid can't get his kata, if they're not doing their hand right position, or they're not bowing their leg out the right way or so on. That could be something that you have in there. I don't know how you would implement. I don't know it well enough.
Yeah.
And then they're at home and, hey, their mom or dad says, okay, show me how you're going to do it, because you have your green belt test coming up.
Yeah.
And then they can go in there and say, okay, no, Shihan said, here's how you got to do it. So let's try it again. So they're learning at home. The parents are involved and they're progressing and they're working at it.
Yeah.
Instead of just blowing it off.
That's an interesting to me. I admit I have to take a look at some of these things. I don't. I come from an era that, we're taught the kata one time and that was it. And the class was, the way our instructor thought is that out of the 10 people that were in class, you all got something of it. So put it together. And that's how we learned. He forced us to think through things. And I'm still of that mindset, and I haven't really crossed over into the more technology to make it easier for my students to retain stuff. So it's definitely a weakness of mine, and I do have to take a look at that. So
it's the same for us as advanced as you and I both are. Been in our fields for decades, and it's like, okay, if I'm asking this kid or this student, client, whatever, to go through a period of being uncomfortable, i.e. growth, because it's never, you have your growing pains.
You do.
Then I can't sit there and be hypocritical enough to say, hey, kid, you got to do this, and I have all the answers, at least for what you need, and then not continue on the same learning curve of a career or a lifetime myself. So, and then I think the benefit that I can speak to, because some of the stuff I've been doing and working on, and it's very scary for me. And it's like, okay, now I have a better understanding of what this student who might be a beginner in golf is going through their mind, because this is all new to them.
Yeah.
At least they keep coming back, and I keep persevering in the things that I've been doing. And then they advance, and then, they reach a level and the process starts all over again.
Yep.
Yeah, we've talked. How many times have we talked and try to get through to people that, okay, well, someone's a black belt. Whoopee ding dong. That's just a license for the rest of the higher ranks to start really beating the shit out of you.
Pretty much. It's one thing to have a black belt. It's another thing to become a black belt. It's one thing to say you're a golfer, and it's another thing to go out there and really work on your game and improve and want to have that betterment in your game. It takes work. Takes work, perseverance, and it takes a lot of focus. So, the correlation between golf and martial arts is not a big jump for my mind anyway. I tend to gravitate towards sports that challenge me in that speed, power, timing, placement, and balance, and that integration of all of them together, mind and body. I find golf is a big comparison to that. I do some firearm shooting. Same thing with there is too. It's your grip, your stance, your posture, and your aiming, your tempo, and your finger pull,
your breathing,
and your breathing. So it's all the same there too, mind and body. So.
Like before we came on, we were eating dinner. We were watching that documentary on the Valley Uprising.
Oh man!
And the same, the breathing, and the technique and everything involved, but more
and the strength,
goodness. And even so, all the people that we were watching and they do their interviews, it's like they're all talking about the mind-body connection.
Yeah, yes.
The Zen and the art of rock climbing, or coaching martial arts, or coaching golfers, or playing. It's how do you blend the two? And I think that's the eternal question.
And one thing I have done with my students is I reference video games a lot. And I keep telling them that their mind, their brain, is the best controller in the world. And their body is the best action figure in the world. And now we're trying to get those two to work together, not just with our fingers, but with everything. So I do tend to try to break into that mindset there a little bit. Some of them get it a little bit more when I say things like that, and some kind of brush it off. But it is all about the mind and body.
Earlier you had mentioned in your career and working with and knowing Hoist Gracie, and obviously the Gracie family is the top of the food chain, in particular in today's MMA world. They basically started it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Who are some of your other teachers or mentors that really made a big impact?
Yeah, Bruce Lee is one of my idols, and I know a lot of people know of him through some of his movies and his, crazy sounds he used to make and things like that. But he was absolutely amazing to me. He was literally the first MMA practitioner ever. He created his own style, Jeet Kune Do. He decided that he wanted to take techniques from different styles and put them together. That was unheard of back then. And you're talking about a man, and I don't think a lot of people can understand this from the movies, but you're talking about a man who's 5'6", 5'7" tops, 135 pounds. And the power that he could generate with his frame and his body is second to none. Now, I hear a lot of people ask me, well, how would Bruce Lee, handle today? Well, if Bruce Lee was in his prime today, I believe he would find a way. But you really can't go generation to generation like that. It just, there's
Look
no
how hard
way.
it is in golf,
He was
and
the
it's the same
best
thing.
in the world at his prime. Just like Hoist Gracie was the best in the world at his prime. And with golf, you can go throughout history of who were the best in the world in their time too. But Bruce Lee was one of them. Heel Il Cho was another one. He was a taekwondoist out of California at first, but then he went over to Chicago for a little bit, and then I think he went back to California. But there's quite a few of them out there. But really, the first guy that trained me and took me in at 4 years old and gave me a piece of rope because he wouldn't give me a white belt yet. And I didn't get my white belt until the rope broke 2-3 years later.
But you probably didn't even know what the hell it was for. I mean, outside to keep your
I
gi
saw
closed.
everybody else. I'm 4.5 years old. I saw everybody else have a belt. I wanted a belt. In fact, I used to yell at him all the time. He says, "No belt for you, no belt for you." He spoke broken English. His name was Kim Sun Yi, Vincent Yi, who just recently passed away, actually. But the belt that I wear, he handmade.
The rope.
No.
Oh, the belt you have
the
now.
belt that I have now. He actually handmade for me when I made rank, and that's the belt I've been wearing ever since. And he also made me. I got promoted in China to 8th degree, and now my title has changed. Not that I'm one for titles, but it went from sensei to Shihan, and I have a Shihan belt that he made me at 89 years old. So he's been in my life since a very young boy. And he's had more influence on me than most people because there was times I didn't want to do martial arts. I got no belt. I'm wearing a piece of rope. This is getting tough. I'm young. Everyone's older than me. Why do I want to keep doing this? Patterson, New Jersey, he would come to my house, grab me, throw me in his little Volkswagen Beetle, and take me to class. And I know if I did that today, I would probably be arrested. But there's no way I can thank him enough for what he did for me to help me persevere through some of those times that I needed as a young child. So I think it's not the famous people, besides Bruce Lee and Hoist Gracie, things like that, but the person who first took me in had the biggest influence on me. And I would hope my students would say that about me as well too when they're a little bit older.
But paying it forward.
Yes, about paying forward. Yeah.
Your career, because it is the person I know you're humble enough that you don't talk about it. You don't say, "Hey, here's my resume." You don't do this. But since we're on the podcast, it's my job to ask questions to get people to talk about themselves. One thing that some people might not know unless they really do a search on you, Google search, if you're listening, do it now or do it later or whenever. The World Martial Art Hall of Fame you were inducted into.
Yes. Yeah, I was in 2002, and that was a celebration of 30 years in teaching. And that was bestowed upon me by a few of the masters out there that have crossed my paths. And at that same time, they got together and got me a trip to China, where I was able to train with the monks in the Daba Mountains. So I got that for my 8th degree advancement in 2007 and 2008. So, yeah.
What was now you went over there multiple times to train with the monks, didn't you? Or was it
Just one time with the monks. I've been there. I was there twice, but my long stint was about 2 years. I stayed there for 2 years.
And you lived there with them to train, or
I lived. Well, I trained in the Daba Mountains, which is the northern part of China on the east side. And then I went down to Beijing, and then in Beijing I stayed with Jet Li's uncle, is who I stayed with. So I trained with him for a little bit as well.
pretty cool stuff.
It is cool stuff. I didn't get to meet the man, though. I didn't get to meet Jet Li.
No, so, yeah, but the 1 degree separation is pretty. But at that level, I mean, that's like, once you advance and you don't sometimes realize how far you advance until you work with somebody who's younger or even an accomplished level.
Yeah.
Somebody who's a city champion in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, good job. But you don't really look at them because you've gone so far.
Yeah.
And I forget, I think I was telling Krista Dunton the story when I got done playing and I went back into teaching. I was giving a lady a lesson and we were working on her pitching game. And she advanced very quickly. And so I said, okay, let's go out to the golf course. Because you got to be able to apply it. What the hell's the point of sitting there hitting pitch shots over a sandwich onto a green over and over and over if you can't do it when you need it? So we go out on the golf course, and I didn't jump right into a hole. I said, let's go back to the tee and we'll play this hole. Well, sure enough, she lays up because she's relatively new, short of this creek, and she's, I don't know what she had, remember, 30 yards or so to the green, but there's this little creek, and I can see a look on her face. She's deathly afraid. Here I am coming off of playing professional golf, and I'm thinking to myself, what is her problem? We just spent 45 minutes doing this. She did great. Why can't she do it? And then it's like, hey, dumbass, she's a beginner. You're a tour level caliber player. You can't even comprehend, so you need to start to learn how to do this. So I could only imagine in martial arts there's got to be some similarities to that, especially for somebody you reach 8th Dan. You're going over to China to do training. Basically, like, well, it's a little different in golf now, but it'd be like going over to Scotland and right training over there, playing links golf and learning where it all started. Yep. What any others? Some of the as far as your training and
I've always gravitated. It didn't have to be just martial arts. I always gravitated towards the people who have underdog stories that started with nothing and achieved something and gave back. Those are the people I always gravitated towards, and how I form my life as well. I started with nothing, got a little something, and now I'm trying to give back to have other people think that same way. So martial arts, there were so many people that I looked up to. I come from an era where there was an Ed Hartzell. There was you got Chuck Norris. Ed Hartzell is a local guy up by me right now. He's been around forever.
Who's the Taibo guy? You're
Billy Blanks.
Billy Blanks.
Billy Blanks.
A lot of people might remember him.
You know what? He's a great guy. I may have not have been into the Taibo part of it, but he was a great guy. He's he's another one who started with nothing and worked his way up.
Martial arts seems to be like boxing was back in 80 to 100 years ago or so. The way for the less fortunate to get out of where they were, or at least apply themselves to something that wasn't in the streets.
Correct.
That was more productive.
Correct.
Is it still that way, do you think?
I like to think it is. And it was a big part of me. The way I grew up, I could have went in a couple different directions, but I stayed relatively pretty focused through that. It's helped me have some success stories. I entered the workforce at a very young age. I started at UPS at like 16 and worked through, 10, 11 years with them. And I ended up being a region manager for United Parcel Service for the East Coast. So if it wasn't for my martial art abilities of achieving and persevering, I don't think I would have had that. So between those two things, and started my school in 1994 with a business sense and the martial arts sense. Putting those two together is what I'm trying to bring on to other people now too. I'm trying to teach my students that they can achieve anything they want as long as they take the principles, the simple principles of martial arts, that you can do anything if you persevere, if you work hard, and you remain humble. You will achieve a lot in life. So,
as we go through this, one of the other reasons that the similarities between not only martial arts and golf, but you have had a long-standing martial arts career, but you were also in the golf industry for a number of years.
Yep.
And that's how we met. I think it was when I was teaching at the school and you were going there.
That's great.
After you graduated and you lived here for, was it 2-year program?
Yeah, two and a half years I was here. Yeah.
And when you went back to home to the Northeast, take me a little bit through your golf career and.
Sure. I'm a person that if I'm going to learn something, I need to learn it well. So I'm a late bloomer in golf. I didn't start until late in life. So instead of me just going out and hacking around and stuff like that, I decided, hey, you know what, I'm going to go to school. So I came down here, and it's where we met. Right away, it was a great connection because the way you teach really helped me out. But I loved golf with the same fervor as I did with martial arts because of the connection of the mind and body, the speed, the power, timing, placement, and balance. And I had a good time with all the courses. I went back home. I got into the system. I went through PGA Level 1, PGA Level 2, then decided that it wasn't for me.
What I tried to tell you early on in your schooling.
You did. I did enjoy teaching, though. That's the thing. But, you know the deal. You, when you're a golf pro or an assistant, you do everything but teach. And it's a shame. It's a shame.
You work holidays, you work weekends.
Holidays, weekends.
Little pay.
Yep.
You get free golf.
And you get free golf. And that's great for a little while until, you decide that there's more to life than just that. So, but I don't regret it at all. And I still play and tinker, and I still love the game. And it's one of those games, just like martial arts, you can do until you can't swing no more.
Right.
So,
and you also work for Cobra Puma.
Yes, I did. Yep. I got into that part of the game as well. Of the golf game, if you will. Cobra Puma was the company who sponsored me while I was an assistant at one of the courses that I was working at. And I took to the company right away. I thought it was fresh. I always liked their equipment. So I hooked up with them, and I did some selling for them for a little while, and used their club still. So,
what did you see as somebody who had obviously built a successful business? You were UPS, a big corporation. I don't know what they're level, if they're top 50, top 100. I don't know. But it's obviously a worldwide business that you excelled in there. And so you take that experience, you take building your own business from scratch experience, and then you come into golf. What did you see that the industry needed to improve at, either from the manufacturer side and or from the club side where you were working?
From the manufacturing side, well, I can say this now that I'm kind of out of this, the thing is honesty. I mean, every year these new clubs come out citing that they can go further and this and that. They're under stringent, specifications that they can only go so far with the ball and so far with the club, and they're at that now. They can't go much farther with it. And so when you have a club that comes out one year and the next year it's a different color, but it's really the same club, and so a little bit of honesty, I think, would have been a little nicer. that I see there. I know everybody, it's about retail, it's about sales. I get that, but not everybody wants to go out and spend a couple $1,000s on new clubs every year. From the pro side, it's golf. It should be fun. It should be fun. It should be rewarding. You should be able to help people. And it shouldn't become mundane, working long hours from all the way early morning until late at night, and not feel like you're being edified with it. It edifies for a little while because of the love of your game, but it doesn't edify you long term.
How would you change it if you had the magic wand? They said, Shihan, you're 8th Dan in Taekwondo. You've got 5 different black belts. You're a very accomplished person. We're going to give you the reins in the PGA to wave a magic wand and change it. What would you do?
Well, for the local clubs and the private clubs, I believe that they need to humble themselves a little bit and just realize that this is golf. It's a game. It should be fun. It's taken seriously. You can adhere to all the things you're trying to get across in your system, whether it's professionalism, good merchandise, sales, things like that. You can do all that, but it still needs to be fun. It still needs to be edifying your employees. Especially your first assistants and second assistants and your PGA head pro of the course. I'm not in the business, but I hear it all the time. I hear it for some of my friends. I'm friends with quite a few PGA people. They're quitting, they're moving, they're getting shifted, they're getting let go. They're moving all around all the time. Mm-hmm. It seems like they got maybe a 3 to 5 year lifespan at a course, and then they got to move and go look for something else. That's tough. That's a tough life to live.
How would you change that through industry-wide and education on clubs? Because you're obviously working, usually head pros or director of golf are under a GM, and the GM follows the guidance of the board. And that is, I've worked at private clubs forever. Mm-hmm. And that was always one of the challenges, in particular in this area, where you have a lot of retirees with a lot of time in their hands. And then with the advent of the internet, they can go on and, like Mickey Colelli used to say, he said, I can't wait till the day I retire because I'll know everything there is to know about growing grass. Because these members are always coming in telling the superintendent what they need to do to change. It's like, okay, this person spent 30 to 40 years in this industry. Mm-hmm. You've been retired for 6 months. You've read up on it for 4. Now you're going to tell them how to do it. So from my perspective, I think that educating clubs, meaning the membership, mm-hmm. so whoever gets on the board, understands that, okay, you went through, whether it was you or somebody else that was in that seat, but there mm-hmm. was a group of people at your club, all have the same value, vision type things, or else you wouldn't join the same club. So that's a similarity. And somebody obviously did enough homework and did enough interviews and felt that this person was the right person for the job, and they've been there for a number of years. Let them do what they need to. Tell them what you want done. Yeah. Or work with them and say, here's what we would like to do, different from the last Greens Committee or the last board of directors. Here's where we want the club to go. How do we get there? And then the responsibility falls on the head professional director of golf and the assistants, the golf staff, to do all they can to get the club and the membership in that direction. Yeah. Then if they don't do it, okay, then you maybe sit down with them about this. This isn't working. Can you get better at this? Or here's what we need to do. And if they don't, then that's a fair enough reason for both groups to part ways. But to go through, I think what's been happening in golf, and as you said, it's not getting any better. Pros every 3 to 5 years are either burned out because the club wants them there 100 hours a week, and or it's just like, okay, in today's society of get anything you want in 2 days and binge watch, 25 episodes in a weekend. All right, throw this person out and get a new one with no comprehension of what that does to somebody's life. Right. They have a family. Now they got to pack. What are they going to do next? They have to pack up and move. Where are they going to go? Yeah. It's a disposable society, I think, and it's affecting both the industry and the people within it, I think, in a negative way.
I agree. It dawned on me as you were speaking that one of the things is most successful companies, they have hierarchies, but one of the things that's different between that and, say, golf is that they try to make it a team effort in a successful company. So the GM and the head pro and the first assistant and second assistant, they should be on the same team. They should work together. Yes, okay, one is higher than the other. I get that, but really, you need to look at the common goal, what you're trying to achieve, and try to edify each other at the same time. If they work more as a core unit, I think it would benefit them greater.
Yeah, and I think that the somehow, some way, that the education of memberships or board of directors, whatever group
Yes.
you want to put into that.
Yeah.
And I don't know who comes up with it. Does the director of golf or the head professional assistant come up with helping the board of directors or the members at large to understand better, to say, here's what we're doing. We know you want to do this. I think you should do this, and here's why.
Yeah.
And then if that will, at least if the club doesn't listen to your advice, if you've given them advice repetitively and what you had advised on comes true and they went a different direction each time, those people are successful. And if they're successful, they usually had to listen to somebody at some point. They didn't do it all themselves. As we talked about earlier, Sam Walton went under 5 times and he listened to somebody. They're smart enough to listen, and somebody on that board of 7 or however many there are has got to say, hey, look, Marinus advised us to do this. We went this way and it didn't work. And what he said looks like it would have worked better. Then we tried this and he told us to go this way and we went another way and what he said worked. Why don't we try listening to him this time? Yeah. Right? It's a form of measurement. There's a big discussion among some coaches right now. It's like, does a line on a ball help you putt? And there's a contingent or a group of them that says no, because people can't line their ball up. If they get the read wrong and they line their putter up to the line, they're going to miss the putt anyway. And then there's another argument that says, okay, their stroke is not, there's a million things that go wrong with a higher handicap stroke that they're not hitting it. And I tend to be on the other side of that coin that says, okay, it's a point of reference. You got to start somewhere.
Yes.
If they're a horrendous putter, you've got to line it up. Yeah. At least it will differentiate between, is the error in their putting because they can't start the ball on line, they can't read the green, so they line themselves up incorrectly, or whatever reason, or the thousands of reasons that could cause someone to miss a putt. At least you can start to eliminate what it's not.
Right.
So I think that in the golf industry would start to benefit all parties and everybody involved.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to change?
No,
I don't either.
It's just human nature.
Yeah.
Especially when you get on clubs where it's volunteer positions.
Yeah.
Somebody's always going to come in and want to change something around completely.
Yep.
Which I think makes any golf professional job harder, in that they have to be very chameleon-like.
Yeah.
Almost like a politician, which is unfortunate. We all know what politicians and that climate's like in this country.
That's a topic of another podcast.
Right. I don't think anybody on either side of the aisle or in the middle thinks that the political scene is very healthy.
No, it's not.
And there's no sign of it getting any better.
No.
But so getting back to the question,
Sure.
Marinus Hook is now president of the PGA. Susie Whaley says, I'm going to appoint Marinus Hook to be the next president. And here's the magic wand that we've developed. You wave it.
Well, president of the PGA, I would have to surround myself with the right people and take and practice what I want to preach. And that's include them to try to work as a team to collectively come up with something that will work to improve not just the quality of golf in the public's eye, but quality of golf and quality of life in the employee's eye that's working across America, that's making these clubs successful. So it has to be a collective unit. If I was president, I'd probably have at least a half a dozen people underneath me. I'd have to put those people there that I respect, and then collectively come together, because Marinus Hook is not good at waving a magic wand. I need some help with that. So I would probably have the right people around me.
And because you worked as an assistant and you also worked for a manufacturer's rep, what do you see in that industry that you would change?
In a manufacturer?
For Cobra Puma or TaylorMade or Titleist, paying, in PXG, insert any company. What did you see in your time in that arena that you're like, well, I don't understand why this is happening, and they all seem to be doing the same thing? I think if they just tweak this, it could become so much better.
Yeah, it was very interesting to me, because let's say somebody, number one in the world is swinging TaylorMade. Well, guess which clubs sell the best that year? But no, Cobra, Ricky just won 5 times in a row, so Cobra starts to sell a little bit. But more importantly, what I did see is people gravitate towards what they're comfortable with. Not everybody's a TaylorMade person. Not everybody's a Cobra person. Not everybody's a Nike person or a Ping person. They gravitate towards what they're comfortable with, and your job is to try to sell them why yours is better and what they think is better for them. You have to believe that, though. I believed in the Cobra equipment. I always liked it. I think it's great for the higher handicapper and also the low handicapper. They have, they always have, I think, one of the coolest designs out there for golf clubs, that Cobra, and I think they need to just continue to make good equipment, make good quality equipment, and be honest in their sales practices, trying to get it out to the public. And also, they're going to have to be innovative as well, because I don't think, with the way the world is right now, and right now we're in this pandemic too, and people lost their jobs, and I think people are playing more golf, but I don't know if they're buying new equipment at this moment right now. I think people are watching what they spend, because they're worried about the future.
Yeah, nobody knows what the hell. It's hard to plan when everything is so chaotic.
We live in a world of I don't know. So, and when you're trying to do a demo day at a golf course, and attendance is way down, that's because we live in a world of I don't know. And they don't want to go spend a couple $1,000 on a brand new set of clubs and a bag and everything like that, and start their journey in golf with new clubs. The old clubs work, so.
Yeah, I mean, they're made out of steel.
Yeah.
Graphite clubs. It's not like they're going to break anytime soon.
No.
Or at least they shouldn't be.
No. I mean, if you think they're going to help you, they are. But I think the manufacturers are going to have to get a little creative on how they sell their products to the general public, because I don't think...
How did you walk that fine line between you want to help somebody who's a customer coming in for fitting or a demo day, and you want to help the company that you're representing?
Sure.
But you also don't want to give them some line of bullshit.
Correct.
Right? So how did you walk that fine line in to get to the ultimate goal, to make them happy and show them the improvement, and say, hey, look, you can hit this club 10 yards longer, and it's not just a sales pitch. You can hit the ball a few yards straighter, and maybe even pick up half a club on your irons. How did you go about that?
Well, one of the things that set me apart a little bit, because I was already a first assistant and going in through the PGA and stuff, I'm also a martial art instructor, so I consider myself a pretty good teacher. So I wasn't just one of these guys putting clubs in people's hands. I was teaching as I was doing it, and honesty as well too. Even though I believed in the clubs, if they had any kind of hesitation, I would tell them to go ahead and go look at the other clubs, or bring it on over here, or bring your club over here, and we'll compare the two and see what works better for you. And I think that honesty is what helped me sell for Cobra when I was with them.
You were one of their highest sellers, weren't you?
I was in this area. I was. Again, I believed in a product, and they're always pretty cool products too. They're always colorful. They're always, good product.
What kept you from wanting to pursue that? Maybe become a rep, and then even become a regional manager, let's say, for Cobra and Puma.
Yeah, I thought about that, but there just it's funny because the same uneasiness, I guess, or the same life of a PGA first assistant, people bouncing around, that lifestyle mimics it. It's the same thing. The reps don't last very long. The region managers tend to stay too long. Usually somebody's buddy gets the job. It's not based on merit. It's not based on being the best salesman or anything like that. It's based on, other things.
Do you see that in the martial arts world too? Because both games are integrity and honesty and all those things are the cornerstones of both of those fields. And again, martial arts, centuries of that, golf, a couple hundred years.
Yep.
But do you see that in martial arts too?
I do. Unfortunately, I see it kind of watered down. When I first opened up in 1994, there was basically 6 martial arts schools in a 15-mile radius. There are 40 in a 9-mile radius of me right now. A lot of them are very small schools. A lot of them have closed up. Most martial arts schools close up within the first 2-3 years. And the problem is people who just get a black belt think they can go run a martial arts school. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. People getting a black belt as opposed to becoming a black belt is a completely different thing. They need to put in the time. They need to become that black belt through teaching and learning and failing here and there. And then if they want to open up a school, they would have a better chance. But just going on the high of you just wearing a black belt you just got a little while ago and trying to open up a school, it's going to be very difficult for them to withstand time and longevity in running that business.
Do you see people getting advancements in martial arts this is in a similar fashion that you said, like for an example in the rep industry, that people were getting jobs because of who they knew, not necessarily because they were very good at what they did.
Yeah.
Do you see that in martial arts at all?
You don't see that, but what you do see is the more money you spend, you can move up quicker. So there are schools out there like that.
Yeah, like basically paying your way up
pretty much.
At some point, that's got to backfire.
It does. It does in the long term. I mean, I one of the things about my school, it is a melting pot. I get transfers from different schools, and no school takes other students in. They got to start over. They may move a little quicker, but they need to start over because each style is a little bit different. So recently, I just had somebody who was supposed to test for his black belt, who's a brown belt. He came to my school. I said, well, just come to my white belt class. It was a kid who was like 9 years old. And he looked no different than the rest of my white belts. So I talked to the mom, I talked to the dad, and they both agreed that he should start over. He agreed that he should start over, which to me was a big testament to him. And now he's doing so much better now too. He's got the basics down. He's doing well.
I think it's just human nature, and people talk about the president, and I'm not saying just Trump. I know President Obama, George Bush, and they're like every argument, every time there's a president gets in position, they form their cabinet, and they're like, well, he's just putting his friends in there. And I got tired of hearing it, and I said to some people, I said, if you were in that position of authority, you're telling me you wouldn't give some of your friends jobs that they probably didn't deserve, but you know that they could probably do somewhat decent?
Yeah.
You wouldn't do anything like that? Oh, no, I wouldn't do anything. It's okay. It's always the other guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, the number of them did say, well, yeah, I guess I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I at that point, I say it's doesn't matter if you're left or right, or if you're golf world or manufacturer, coach, martial arts school. I think that's just human nature, is to, even though you know that somebody else is better suited for that position.
Yeah, and what's interesting, my mind doesn't think like that because I come from a company where I worked for UPS. One thing about UPS is that they promote from within. You work hard, you earn it, they promote you. It's that simple.
It's a very simple philosophy.
They take very few people from the outside. They promote from within. I think that's the way it should be, by merit. That's the whole purpose of you working for a company, is to better yourself, and move up if you can.
Growth. So same as we talked about earlier.
Yep.
And I knew a couple of guys, one that was retired here, and another one that's in Arizona, that they had started. Now they were retired, and those guys got to be pushing 80 now. So it was a different era to a large extent, but still worked at UPS, and they both started in the delivery room.
Yeah.
And they were, 18, 20,
Yep.
and worked themselves up to regional VP, and one I think was vice president of the company.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is, that says a lot.
It does. It does.
It amazes me. It's no secret how successful organizations are do what they do. I mean, they basically do what they're supposed to. And it seems like that's the hardest thing to do. Do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
What does your job description say? Okay, do that.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Yep.
What is a white belt supposed to do?
Right.
Okay, do this. And here's a green belt and a blue belt and a purple and a brown and a second brown, and here's a black. Here's what you're supposed to do. Do these things. If you're not good at them, keep working at them. You're going to get better.
Yeah.
If you want to play better golf, here's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Go work on these things. It's when people, as we talked about this whole time, they get off in these tangents. They want a shortcut. Today's society, want a shortcut.
They want it everywhere. You're right.
I don't think there are shortcuts. I mean, millennia has shown there's not shortcuts.
No.
The society has gone that way. And I can't blame some of the younger kids who, in the last, 15, 20 years, because the growth, the rapid and exponential growth of YouTube and social media, where you have these people who went from basically obscurity, like the girl who was on the swimsuit issue, and she's the model married to the pitcher. He was with Detroit and in Houston. Is it Kate? I can't remember her name. That's not important, but
right.
I mean, she put some videos of herself modeling, I think it was, on YouTube. Some modeling agency sees it. Okay, let's sign her, and her meteoric rise. And I think during that era, decade and a half ago, there were a number of people that were getting found like that. And then that became the focus instead of the abnormality.
Right.
Right? I mean, superstars like that are going to be found.
Yeah.
She's a supermodel. Okay, she was going to get found at some point. But for a lot of kids to grow up and see that and then think, well, if I throw my stuff out on YouTube, I'm going to become that too. No, you're not.
Yeah, yeah. We live in a world that everybody wants to be an idol or a voice or a TikTok hero or a YouTube star, or Facebook star.
I guess in going back when we were younger, that everybody's they said, what were you in a past life? And everybody's, well, I'm a king or I'm a queen or I'm a knight or I'm this. I'm like, yeah, I was just a peasant. Why does everybody have to be a king or a ruler?
Yeah.
Like, really, if everyone was that, who the hell was doing the grunt work?
Yeah.
I don't need to be that. Just
I don't either.
quiet, do my thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully a lot of people tune in, listen. And
Yeah.
I don't need to be it'd be nice to be the Joe Rogan of the golf podcast world, but hopefully someday. But I don't need to go from
You'll get there.
mediocrity where I started.
You got to start somewhere. I'm sure if Joe Rogan was sitting in his chair, he would tell you how he started.
Yeah, we'd definitely be drinking bourbon. Or, I don't know about smoking the dope and everything else, but doing DMT or what is it, ZT? I can't remember what the hell.
I don't know either.
Yeah, that would be a blast. But he, as a big martial artist, I'd have to say, hey, you got to have my friend Marinus on there too.
Yeah.
And I think, in fact, we should message him, say you need to be on his show, you and Hoyce.
I love that. Yeah.
As we get towards the end, we'll wrap up. Weren't you in Hoyce's corner for a while?
Yeah, he was in a couple. After the UFC, he continued to compete and stuff like that, and we did a bunch of seminars throughout the East Coast in Connecticut. We were at the Trump Casino doing a big seminar there. We had a camp down here in the Poconos. So a lot of times in the casino, like Trump Casino, I was in his corner when he was like demonstrating and stuff like that. They'd call me out and everything, and so,
You'd be the uke. You get thrown
I'd
around a little bit.
Yep.
Okay.
Ernest,
Tap.
Come here.
In all the training that in practicing, I don't know if that's the right word.
Yep.
That you got to do with him. Did you ever get the better of him at all?
Yeah, I actually did twice. The first time he just smiled and looked at me and said, "Marinus, never again." And
What did he do when it happened again?
Well, that didn't happen for a few more months afterwards. The second time, but right after that, he showed me that I wasn't going to do it again.
He shows you the hierarchy.
yeah. No, but anyway, I had a good time with that. I will admit that I'm getting older, and it's a little tough on the bones. So it's a younger man's sport. It's a great way to get in shape and have fun with it, but as you get older, the joints start to yell at you a little bit. But yeah.
So what do you have? What's next with Family Tree Karate? Because you're back into that. You're out of the golf. You're back full time.
Yeah.
Right into the martial arts in the school.
Yes.
What coming up next? The plan.
COVID kind of set back a lot of martial arts schools and fitness clubs around the country. I personally been shut down for 6 months, and I decided to reopen it after a lot of deliberation and a lot of thinking and praying about it, whether I should do it or not. But something inside me said, I'm still doing good. There's still things that I can help people with that I still think it's worth it. But martial arts on its own is not enough anymore. I got to do something else. So what to do? So you know me a little bit. I do firearm stuff. I do survival stuff. I got in. I'm not going to say I'm a full-fledged prepper, but I believe in certain preparation for survival. I live in the Pocono Mountains. During one of the hurricanes, we lost our power for a month. I was okay. I had wood heat. I was able to cook. I was able to clean. I could take showers. It was dead of winter. I mean, we were good. But we literally lost our power for a month. It was a Hurricane Sandy that came through. That one. Poconos, because it's a little antiquated. When one transistor blows on a telephone pole, they all do. They since upgraded that, but we had every telephone company from all around the country here fixing the Pocono Mountains.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I got into it back then, and I opened up a survival shop within my martial arts school. So survival food, fire, shelter, water, first aid, tools. I like that stuff. I enjoy that stuff, and I think it's going to be more necessary than people think. And if we go through another lockdown, I'll be able to teach privately at my school, and I will be able to stay open because what I'm selling is essential. Survival food and stuff like that's kind of essential now. So that's how I rebooted my school. And I'm still looking to add other things into it. Maybe a yoga instructor for the daytime. I think the more things I can add in there will help not only edify but make a viable school for the future.
Yeah, and especially if it's continuing to the betterment of the individual.
Yes.
Yoga, if you haven't done it, I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah.
And even they got yoga for golfers now, or not now, but they've had it. But that ties into the mind body things that we talked about. And I know a fair amount of clubs, at least in this area, the private clubs, all have yoga programs implemented into their facilities because it has shown and proven to be not beneficial just from a physical standpoint, but the breathing and the calming down
and the flexibility.
And in today's ridiculously crazy, fast-paced world, you've got to shut your mind and learn how to bring it down.
You do.
Otherwise, you're going to be running in the red in the RPM, and then wonder why you're continually getting sick or feel like shit.
Yeah, it's true.
Where can people go to find more about your school and the products that you have and so on?
Yeah, sure. Well, I have a website. It's familytreekarate.com. It gives all the information about what we talked about today. It has a store on it as well. It's located in Palmer Township, Pennsylvania. If anybody's around that area, stop in, say hello, and that's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ready to do some rapid fire, and then we'll wrap up and
Yeah, absolutely.
polish off dessert from the dinner we had earlier.
Oh yeah, and by the way, that was a great dinner. Let me just interject one thing.
Sure.
I'm honored to be here, and for you Paradigm followers out there, these videos that he's doing is simply amazing. The wealth of knowledge that he has, you gotta take it in. It's really good stuff out there.
The YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel, yeah.
Hopefully it keeps. It's starting to catch fire. I was very late to that game. I think Lauren Anderson from Proponent Group and I were talking about that. So I was late, very very late to the YouTube game. But hey, you like we talked about, it has taught me that you need to learn new things.
Yeah.
Because I was late because I didn't want to get in the technology world.
Yeah.
It taught me that you have to continue to work at something if it doesn't take off the way you want it to all right away. I mean, none of these guys, all these guys on Golf Pass. I mean, Martin Chuck started doing videos because I think he said his members were not parking their carts in the right place, so he went out and did a video with to show them where to park. Mm-hmm. And he has the same, I think he said, the receiver and the mic set that he started with. Wow. So I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And the podcast has helped me. Hopefully it's helped everybody. I mean, the whole purpose of this was to help people at golf in their life, which is why the 360, right? It's a wide array of people affiliated with golf. And I mean, it's helped me tremendously learning from all these other people, all the guests that have been on the show, and you talk to them and you're like, and hopefully people listen like, holy shit, wow. Yeah. They went through that too. I mean, I'm struggling with that right now. They went through that and here they are at the top of this mountain.
Yep.
But yeah, it's been as you look back, as we talked about earlier, the perspective of the mountain you're climbing, as it changes, wow, I was there and now I'm here.
Right.
You know, I only had 15 people viewing it. You have usually your mom or your dad or your closest friends. They're the only ones watching your videos. Next thing you know, you got 45,000. It's like, okay, I'm doing something right. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
But yes, it's been exactly what we've talked about.
Yeah.
It's setting me back to a beginner level of something.
Yeah.
Always changing. That's the crazy thing is, no matter what you're doing in life, as soon as I start to approach where I think I'm getting to where I need to be is when I start to get nervous, because I'm like, I'm old enough and experienced enough now to say, oh shit, what's coming next?
Yeah.
Am I going to get to enjoy this for a little while before I got to go reach another peak?
Yeah.
All right, let's do some rapid fire. We always end up with these. Some of them are newer. Some of them are ones I've asked before. So the first one I always ask is Ryder Cup has a walk-up song that they started a couple years ago. I think they started at Medina, where they play a song that the person, I guess it's supposed to kind of represent who they are, what they like. So what would be your Ryder Cup walk-up song? Any band, any song you want to without history.
Oh, okay. Low Rider.
All right. What do you hate more, a sandbagger or a cheater?
They're one and the same, ain't they?
Yeah, you could say so.
Yeah.
But you played enough tournaments. We played in that one Pro-Am in Vegas that one year. That I mean, everybody struggled to shoot under par, and that one group came in 10 under. Like, no, that's not happening. Not in 40-mile-an-hour winds out of that course.
That was a fun tournament, by the way. We saw every kind of weather that day.
Oh, that is a fun event. I'd miss that. I'd love to get back to that one. If you had to put an emoji on your golf club, what would it be?
That one right there. the laughing emoji.
The laughing one?
Yeah, to remind me to keep laughing.
and not to be too serious.
And from a martial art point of view, I put a punch bag on my cart.
Burn off some steam.
Yeah.
Best course you ever played?
Best course I ever played.
Because you've got some good ones around you. And you were here for 2.5 years. You played a lot of good ones.
Best course I ever played. I did get to play Pebble Beach. So from an iconic point of view, Pebble Beach. Mm-hmm. And I played a lot of courses around here. I got to tell you something, and I'm giving a shout out to Old South. Old South is one of my favorite courses. It's just a beautiful setup, great people.
Yeah, they do a good job.
They do a good job there, all around.
They do what we talk about.
They get it. They get it.
Here's what we offer. We know what we are.
Yeah.
We're not Harbor Town.
No.
They've had the same GM since the place opened.
Yep.
Cindy's the head of the kitchen. She's been there, I think, 25 years.
Yeah.
Amy's now been there, I want to say, is it 10? It could be longer.
Yep.
Bag drop guys, same. And they, you know what you're getting. They take care of you.
Yeah, a good practice range. They got everything. Yep. And a beautiful layout.
I'm very fortunate to be there. They've been very good to me.
Yeah.
And I hope that some more people through listening and check them out as well.
I highly recommend it.
Would you rather live 100 years in the past or the future?
Past. But only if I know what I know now.
No word invest. Let's see. If there was a movie about your life, what actor would play you?
What actor would play me? That's a good question. I would have to say I would make a Denzel Washington.
See the resemblance.
you like that? See, that's pretty close.
Your Nordic look and his look, you must have been separated at birth.
Yeah, but the name Marinus it can go with anything.
Superpower. What would you say your superpower is?
I'm intuitive. I see things a lot of times before they come to fruition, but usually they come to fruition. And there's no way for me really to get that across to anybody. I can think what I'm going to think and say what I'm going to say, and but ultimately it's got to happen. So sometimes these things happen, quickly, and sometimes they happen, a couple of years down the road. Mm-hmm. A quick story: the application that I put on for the Wise Food Storage, the food stuff that I sell, was 7 years ago. And on the application, they have a question: what do you see coming in the near future that is going to require people to want food storage? Well, I forgot what I wrote, but they sent me an email and a plaque that says Marinus the Soothsayer. And I'm like, well, what is this? Marinus the Soothsayer? What is this? Anyway, 7 years ago, for that question, I wrote pandemic from China.
Jeez.
So now they're asking me what's next, and I know what's next, but
keep that one close to the chest.
Yeah, I'm keeping this one close because we're all in it.
If
it's going to happen soon too.
If you would have said pandemic from Wuhan, that would have really.
I know, right? That would have been.
Let's see. Who would you most like to caddy for? Any player?
Jack Nicklaus.
Just because you probably walk down the middle of the fairway and find his ball.
Yes. Yeah.
If you could have anybody swing in the world, who would it be?
Yours.
Thanks.
I like that.
Not playing in almost 3 years.
I've been playing with you for a long time. You got one of the most consistent swings out there.
Yeah, that's very flattering. This is for everyone's always Rory. I'm like, hey, yeah. Next time I run into Rory, I say, hey, Rory, I'm up there with people desire my as much as yours. Bank accounts are a little different, and accomplishments at that level are a little different.
Yeah, don't let this this conversation trick anybody. He has got a wonderful swing. He's a player.
All right, final one. Greatest of all time, Nicklaus or Tiger?
Nicklaus. It has nothing to do with that I don't respect Tiger and what he's accomplished. I just respect Nicholas and what he accomplished without the advantages that Tiger has. It's kind of like how we talked about Bruce Lee in the modern world. Nicholas did it without all the fluff.
The technology,
everything else.
Nutritionist.
He did it with fundamentals. Every time he struggled, he went back to fundamentals. Nobody better.
It is, I listened to Brandel Chambly and Jaime Diaz have a podcast, and I listened to they had that discussion about Tiger versus Jack, and Nick, obviously Brandel's very well read and versed, and he went through Nicklaus's. I mean, his second place finishes at majors, which will that's a record. You can probably bet your house that it's not ever going to be approached.
No,
but his number at top 10s in majors, and just all the way down the line. And then, as we talked about, you can't compare eras, but I mean that one's pretty hard to ignore. Tiger's got the more wins, and you'd be hard pressed to find anybody to say that the competition now is not as deep as it was back then. Maybe you had better players at the top, but now you've got every week you had 144 guys that can win.
Right.
Where back then,
well, that's where I give Tiger credit.
Right.
I think he's elevated the game in like nobody has ever had. We got so many wonderful players out there. Like you said, anybody can win it nowadays. But back in that era, for what he had to work with and how he did it, I don't see anybody better than Nicklaus.
It's been an interesting question. It's why every guest gets it. It's about split 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's not a right or wrong answer.
No,
and
there's not.
Now, I will say Tiger's story is not complete.
No.
He still has time to catch him, and it'll be fun to watch to see if he does.
Yeah.
All right, this has been awesome. Great to have you in town.
Yes.
Good to see you again.
I appreciate you having me.
Catch up.
Yep.
And we'll have some more stories to tell next time you come on.
All right. Thank you, bud.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed it, you can find more information on today's episode and other topics at golf360.blog. There you'll find the show notes and links related to this episode, as well as any other episode that we've done so far to date. If you're interested in improving your game and would like to learn more from yours truly by taking a private lesson, a half-day or multi-day school, club or putter fitting, you can reach me through the blog site or by email, pete@golf360.blog. So some of you may be asking, what is the golf paradigm? All you have to do is click on the homepage while on my blog site to discover how you can start playing better than you ever thought possible. Or you can simply sign up, again, on the blog page for my instructional videos where I give regular tips on all areas of the game to include the swing, club design and fitting, health, fitness and nutrition, the mental aspects, and equally as important, the integration of all those things together. I'm also on social media, and you can find me at The Golf Paradigm. That's PARADIGM. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, also under the same name, The Golf Paradigm. Facebook is usually the best way to reach me for questions and or comments, and I look forward to hearing what all of you have to say. This podcast is brought to you in part by Old South Golf Links. A short ride across a bridge from Hilton Head Island is one of the area's finest golf courses and a hidden treasure. Set up on towering pines and ancient oaks with sweeping marsh vistas, truly makes Old South Golf Links a one-of-a-kind golfing experience. The Clyde Johnson design was named one of the top 10 new public courses when it opened, and it also takes full advantage of the natural beauty of the Low Country. Old South is a fun and unique challenge for golfers of every skill level and a favorite of both locals and visitors. Whether it's your first time here or you're a regular, you'll be treated and feel like family. From the bag drop to check-in at the fully stocked pro shop with both men's and women's apparel, to breakfast or lunch before or after your round, the staff is always ready and willing to help. Experience for yourself why Old South is one of the premier golf courses in the Hilton Head area and why it will quickly become a favorite of yours too. Visit them in person or online at www.oldsouthgolf.com, or to make it tee time, simply call the pro shop at 843-785-5353.